Okay, so we need to talk about WarhammerFest. So WarhammerFest happened this weekend. I'm literally just in the door, off a plane, to talk about it right now. You can see my full weekend pass here. I feel like I need to get this video off my chest. I've been mulling over it all weekend. And in a lot of ways, it's a very unfortunate video. It's not one that I really wanted to make, but we have to talk about this because there are, at the very least, a lot of lessons to be learned from this weekend. Some really important lessons. Now, WarhammerFest is a massive convention that is put on by Games Workshop every single year, though it took a little bit of a hiatus over COVID. It used to go by the name of Games Day, but, you know, it got renamed to WarhammerFest because branding, really, is the only reason. And it is an entire weekend of celebrating Warhammer games, the Warhammer franchise, the Warhammer brand. It covers Warhammer 40k, Age of Sigmar, now it's the Old World, Kill Team, and Warcry as well. It's essentially Games Workshop's response to big conventions like Adepticon, one that they control and they own, and they're able to put out their big announcements on that day. And this year it was huge. Around 10,000 participants at the fest every day of the weekend, all squeezed into Manchester Central, all to find out what new color of Space Marine is on the docket. And I was there. I counted myself among them. This was a really exciting year for WarhammerFest. Warhammer 10th edition is on the horizon, and everybody wanted to get to see all the information about that. But not only that, there was also Warhammer the Old World 2, the new old game from Games Workshop about the new old franchise being developed by Creative Assembly for Total War Warhammer that created a new old renaissance in old school new games. I think I got that. It's been a long weekend. And I have to say, before we get any further into this, everyone at the event was absolutely lovely. I had an absolutely fantastic time talking to so many awesome people. The Games Workshop staff there were incredibly dedicated, absolutely fantastically passionate, absolutely amazing to speak with, really fun. I don't have a bad word to say about the people staffing the event. It was absolutely incredible. They did their absolutely best to put on a fantastic show as much as they could. And it's very clear that there are a ton of incredibly passionate fans in Games Workshop, and they were absolutely lovely to talk to. They were incredible and fantastically good sports, even when I was asking them questions that they probably weren't allowed to answer. However, things did go a little bit awry from the very beginning. So the convention itself took place on Saturday through to Monday. I don't know why it wasn't Friday to Sunday. I guess it's just Games Workshop being Games Workshop. But okay, fine. Now things got off to a bit of a rocky start. For my own part, I was there pretty bright and early at 8 a.m. And for the record, I'm a YouTuber, so I'm not used to waking up until noon. So this was a pretty big feat for me, and I think I deserve a round of applause. Yes, I'm a functional adult. Why do you ask? No, I got the weekend event, but there was an email that went out to everybody who was attending WarhammerFest this year on the day before the fest began. And in that email, it gave us the times and dates and what we could expect when we arrived at the fest. Unfortunately, there was some pretty important misinformation presented in that email. Those who only had a single day's entry for the Saturday, which, to be honest, was the biggest day at WarhammerFest. It was the most important day for a lot of people. Saturday was the day that Warhammer 40k 10th edition was getting revealed. The starter box was going to get shown to everybody. It was absolutely the biggest hype day, I want to say. And as a result, a lot of people presumably have ordered tickets just for that single day of WarhammerFest. Unfortunately, in the email that Games Workshop sent out the day before, they told people with a single day entry ticket that they could not come into WarhammerFest until 10 a.m. And 10 a.m. was too late for anyone to actually see the 40k reveals because that started at 9 a.m. So that was a pretty big mess up for Games Workshop, and I think that there was quite a lot of people who were left disappointed because they were forced to arrive late to the doors. However, even if they did arrive at 8 a.m. on time like I did, they might have been set up for disappointment like I was. There were a few really major things I wanted to do at WarhammerFest, and one of them was see the new reveals for Warhammer 40k. At the event, Games Workshop revealed the Leviathan starter box, which comes with a bunch of really awesome minis, tons of new Tyranid sculpts that look really, really great. Unfortunately, I did not get to see this live. So, bearing in mind that there were 10,000 people at WarhammerFest on Saturday, Games Workshop held the reveals for Warhammer 10th edition in a side room auditorium that seats 800. And this auditorium was not signposted at all. In fact, the only sign for the auditorium on that first day was a giant sign saying fire exit. This meant that I missed the live reveals of 40k. I wasn't able to find the room where they were being held at. Instead, I was trapped in the central hall alongside a ton of other wargamers as well, as we watched the 40k reveals on Twitch like everybody else at home. Except, unlike everyone else at home, we couldn't hear anything. The sound system had not been set up, so we couldn't actually hear any of the reveals. We just got to watch the images.
If you are in a tournament, pay attention for the next 5 minutes. Or ask a judge about what you missed.
This led to an absolutely bizarre moment where people at WarhammerFest were watching a silent TV show off reveals and crunched up against their phones, desperately trying to get Twitch up so they could actually hear the reveals. It was an absolutely terrible experience for finding out about the Leviathan box set, and people were not impressed, myself included. So that was a little bit of a rocky start, gonna be honest. As for the Leviathan reveal itself, it looks pretty good. It looks like it might be around £150 to £170, which is pretty reasonable, all things considered. However, one of the most exciting parts to me is that there isn't going to be anything exclusive to the box. It looks like you can pick up everything separately, except for a limited edition rulebook inside that box set. But the only difference between that and the regular one is that it will include the Crusade rules, which will be available separately anyway. So great job, the Games Workshop there. So I was disappointed in missing the 40k reveal live. However, I did then get to go to the Warhammer 40k question and answer session. This gave us an opportunity to actually ask some questions about Warhammer 40k and the direction of the game. Unfortunately, I only got the opportunity to ask a single question, so I asked whether or not the artists, sculptors, designers, writers, and playtesters of Warhammer 40k 10th edition would be included and credited in the new rulebook, to which I was told no. And the reason for that was basically that it would be too hard and stuff. So the answer I was given wasn't particularly satisfying. It didn't really answer the question. Basically, what I was told is that it would be too hard to credit everybody. I was told that there would just be too many people to credit in the book. And the writers and designers of the book were equated to the factory workers who also helped bind and build the actual physical product itself. I wasn't really super satisfied with this answer. I didn't think that it was a great answer. And to be honest, the Warhammer 10th edition rulebook is 392 pages. I feel like there would have been more than enough space to credit everybody, including the factory workers. It's just a bunch of names, guys, on a page. I don't know, it's a little bit strange to me because literally no other RPG or wargame company has this problem. They all find it easy enough to get the space to credit their workforce. Next up on the Saturday was the Warcry, Warhammer Underworlds, and Middle-earth strategy battle game reveals, which everyone obviously was incredibly excited for. And this I did manage to get into after a lot of queuing, which we're going to talk about in a second. The Warcry reveals were pretty I wasn't that excited for them, and also the Underworld reveals didn't really mean much to me. I don't play Warhammer Underworlds. However, I was there primarily for the Middle-earth strategy battle game reveals, and I was pretty excited to see what Games Workshop had up their sleeves for the 20th anniversary of Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers, and they had to reveal this thing. So I basically just spent more time talking about Lord of the Rings there than Games Workshop did. So aside from it being a little bit odd, the Games Workshop have released a diorama of a scene from the Fellowship of the Ring during the anniversary of The Two Towers. This just wasn't a very exciting reveal for Lord of the Rings fans. Bear in mind that I queued up for around 2 hours to get into this reveal. Speaking of, let's talk about Warhammer 40Q. WarhammerFest was defined, without a doubt, by its queues. Queues were everywhere. From trying to get into the auditorium to see the different reveals and the Q&As, to going to the Warhammer shop, to checking out the different video game stands, to trying to get a look at some of the Golden Demon entries this year, or playing a fun minigame of Squigapult. Queues were everywhere. And these weren't your standard I'm at the supermarket queues either. These were nasty queues. These were DMV queues. We're talking about hours spent waiting in queues. It was almost the most defining thing. Everyone wanted to talk about queues. And even if you did just want to chill at the event, there was nowhere to sit. There was a very small board game cafe area that was being taken up by people playing board games, or you could sit beside the food stalls in long rows of chairs without any tables and enjoy the atmosphere of an airport terminal. There were demo games to play Warhammer 40k 10th edition, something that I was really excited to do. In fact, this was one of the most important parts of Fest to me. I wanted to play Warhammer 10th edition. I wanted to see how it plays and whether or not it's good so I could report that back to you guys. And as you can imagine, I wasn't the only one interested in trying putting out a demo game of Warhammer 40k 10th edition. It turns out it's quite a popular game at WarhammerFest. Unfortunately, Games Workshop saw fit in their infinite wisdom to put out 5 demo tables for 10,000 people. 5 demo tables, not 50, 5. As a result, in order to actually play a game of 10th edition, you had to wait in a queue that ranged upwards of 4 hours. At a certain stage, they just started putting out chairs inside the queue. So, you know, you did get a bit of a premium queue experience at least. But everything here was defined by queues. In order to get into like the auditorium, for example, I found myself queuing up around 2 hours before anything started, just to ensure that I was within the first 800 to get there. One of the elements that made this a lot worse was the fact that there just wasn't a lot to do at WarhammerFest except queue. People were showing up 2 hours early to get into the auditorium because really there wasn't anything else to occupy them. In previous years at WarhammerFest, there would be panels filled with the designers, writers, artists, people who had worked and were working on Warhammer products. There were authors from Black Library to speak to. There were hobby classes and sessions to speak with the creatives at Games Workshop. This year had none of that. None at all, and as a result, the place felt a little bit empty of content. It did have a hobby area where you could build and paint Warhammer, but there was a queue. A really big queue. If you were someone like me who wasn't interested in the tournament that took place over the weekend for the various different Warhammer games, because, you know, I had to cross a moat to get to East Ireland, so I just could not bring any of my miniatures with me on a plane, then there just wasn't a lot to do there. And even if you were there for the weekend for one of the tournaments, unfortunately, that was a lot of space taken up that could have been used better, in my opinion, for the actual Warhammer Fest itself. Half of the big convention hall was being taken up by loads of tables for the tournament. Instead, what should have been there was a huge sound stage that everyone could get access to and see, where the reveals and the Q&As and all of those big events that people were there for should have been held. There should have been TVs hosted throughout the entire convention, all with audio, so that people could watch and see the new stuff as it was being revealed live. On the first day, there was also a cosplay showcase, which was absolutely fantastic. Some of the cosplay outfits shown off were absolutely mind-blowing. Fantastic work. I am genuinely in awe at what people are able to accomplish. Just oodles of passion and creativity. Awesome. Kind of puts my latex-clad Dark Eldar to shame. On Sunday, we had the reveals for Age of Sigmar. Sunday was a little bit quieter than the day before, but not by much, honestly. It was still pretty busy. Queues to get into a 10th edition demo game were again around 4 hours. I didn't go to the reveal for Age of Sigmar. I just didn't want to queue for 2 hours for like Age of Sigmar. Sorry. But the things that I did see looked cool. I like the look of the new ites for the cities of Sigmar. Although, you know, I don't like Nurgle, guys. I don't want to talk about Nurgle. Without a doubt, though, the thing that I was most excited for on Sunday was Warhammer the Old World. I've got a long history with this game, and honestly, Games Workshop have been teasing me for too long. I wanted answers today, and I got them. I did get them. Honestly, they shoot off a lot more than I was anticipating. They revealed some really cool new miniatures. There is a Bretonnian Paladin and a Tomb King fella, mummy. I don't know what he was called. I can't remember. I'm just off a plane. Either way, they both look fantastic. It's incredible seeing Bretonnians again clad in plastic. I have missed my little French boys. And we got a ton of details on the old world. Games Workshop will be returning to a lot of the old lines, re-releasing some of the older sculpts, but also creating new ones in resin and hard plastic. As well as that, they cautioned that they would be focusing on the actual old world part of the old world. I'm sure that's not going to get confusing. But basically, the area around the Empire. GW did say that they would be supporting armies like Lizardmen, things from the Southlands, etc., but just that they wouldn't be the focus. And they would not be backdating anything from Age of Sigmar, which, okay, sounds reasonable to me. One disappointing element, though, was that they mentioned they didn't see Warhammer Fantasy Battles, the old world game, being particularly accessible for newer players. I thought that was a little bit disappointing to hear. I think that the old world could potentially be a really awesome introduction to wargaming, especially for people who are big fans of the Total War games. There's also a little bit of confusion around the rules to me. Games Workshop suggested there would be free rules for converting old fantasy models into the old world system. but I asked them what the business model of the old world would look like and whether or not there would continue to be army books for the game, and they said yes, there would be, but only for some factions that were the focus of the game. So I think that suggests more like Bretonnia, Tomb Kings, Empire, essentially the big main factions that are in the old world itself. So what that means for like Lizardmen, I'm not too sure. I was a little bit disappointed to hear that army books would be returning again. There's also details on Horus Heresy. They're bringing out Titans. Yeah, I hope you enjoy. I don't play Horus Heresy. And that was basically Sunday. There wasn't really anything else except I found my moment to strike. Throughout the entire weekend, I'd been keeping a careful eye on the 10th edition demo area, watching the queue, and a few hours before the convention closed on Sunday, I queued up for the demo game. And even though the queue was at the shortest point I had seen it throughout the entire weekend, it was a 2-hour wait. It also ran over time, so what this meant is I didn't get a full game of 10th edition in, I only got a single turn. And I have a lot of thoughts on Warhammer 10th edition. I've got a lot of thoughts on the gameplay as well. But unfortunately, I didn't get enough time with it to really come away with a great impression of how it's actually going to play in practice. The first immediate thing I noticed was that the data cards that Games Workshop are moving over to, this is a sheet that has all the information for each of your individual units. It tells you all of their stats, it tells you all of their special abilities, it tells you their faction, it tells you everything you need to know about playing them. This was a game changer. This was absolutely revolutionary for Warhammer 40k. Absolutely fantastic. It totally demystified the different armies. I got to play a single Tyranid unit. It was a kind of a 4v6 game that we played with each person individually controlling a single model. So again, not the most indicative experience of what it will actually play like, but being able to glance casually down at my data card and see everything that my unit could do was fantastic. And being able to do the same with my opponent was positively brilliant. This genuinely, I think, is going to be the most revolutionary part of Warhammer 40k and is going to make it far more accessible as a game. No more will you have to rely on what your opponent thinks that they read inside a massive tome. You can simply instead look down and get all of the details right there. On the other hand, though, we already kind of knew that this was a really good system because, you know, we've played Star Wars Legion. Without a doubt, the data cards for Warhammer 40k make the game far, far, far more accessible to new players. And I'm really sad to hear the Games Workshop are planning on replacing them eventually with codices. That is super disappointing, and I hope they rethink that, and I'm going to try and convince them to rethink that on this channel. Turns out some of the Games Workshop employees watch the channel. Y'all know who you are. So a lot of things have changed with 10th edition, although I will say there were elements of the game that still felt pretty finicky. I don't know if it was quite as simplified as we maybe would have expected. There were some special rules and sub-rules that the demonstrator of the game kind of confused. Now, on the other hand, they had been running demo games for over 12 hours by that stage, so a little bit of brain fog is probably to be expected. There was a few noodly bits, like for example, the Dreadnought could re-roll to hit rolls on some of its weapons, and then it could re-roll to wound rolls on all of its weapons, but only in the instance where the thing that it was shooting at had less than half its morale value. There was still quite a lot of little finidly little elements. It could have just been the case that the Dreadnought itself is particularly noodly, that it's a little bit more of a complicated piece. The Termagants seemed really simple. The Space Marine Flamethrower boys seemed really simple as well. Anyone, I think, that's hoping for a full one-page rule style game is probably going to be a little bit disappointed. But again, I had such a short time with the game that I can't give an amazing impression. So I'm going to write to Games Workshop and see if they'll send me out the Leviathan box so that I can actually play a couple of games so that I can review it on the channel. I don't hold out hope. Monday was the final day of WarhammerFest, and honestly, I wasn't expecting much from Monday at all. The only thing I had a ton of interest in on that day was the Golden Demon Awards. There was a reveal for Kill Team, but I did not expect much. I anticipated that Games Workshop would be selling another big, massive, bundled box set, coming with one new Kill Team, one old Kill Team with an upgrade sprue, and a bunch of terrain that nobody really needs. But Games Workshop really surprised me. They revealed a new expansion for Kill Team that is unlike anything that has come before. This is the Ashes of Faith, and this genuinely is really exciting. I'm actually really excited by this. So this is a narrative expansion for Kill Team, and it details the work of a group of inquisitorial agents working to uproot a chaos cult. And boy oh boy, does that tick all of my checkboxes. When I was younger, I used to play a lot of the RPG Dark Heresy, which was all about this vibe, and I'm a really big fan. And the fact that they're moving into what is a complete boxed product is really exciting to me. This new box set comes with everything you need to play, and also everything within this box, Games Workshop assured me, would be sold separately. So you'll be able to pick this all up separately. I'm assuming at the same time that the box releases. All the Chaos stuff in here is already available separately, so they just need to make the Agents of the Inquisition and the books separate too, and boy oh boy do we have an awesome product. This genuinely reignited some of my interest in Kill Team, and this is something that I am really interested in picking up. And really importantly, the Agents of the Inquisition in this box are totally modular. You can customize them. You can actually build them with different weapons. You can pose them how you want. It looks like the joints go into the shoulder like the olden days. I probably shouldn't do that while I say things. It makes me look unhinged. Actually hinged though, you know? Actually hinged. I'm really excited for this. This is everything I asked from Games Workshop. I really wanted to see this. The only little niggle that I have is that the Agents of the Inquisition could use with a little bit more je ne sais quoi? I think we need to slap them about a bit with the art style of Blanchitsu. They're a little bit plain right now, but I'm gonna try and fix that in post. I foresee a lot of null noil in their future. Unfortunately, right off the excitement of this release, Games Workshop revealed gambling boxes for children. It seems that the new Space Marine Kill Team will be sold via booster boxes with randomized models inside. Games Workshop have done this before. It's called the Space Marine Heroes line. It is targeted at children. This time they've gone a little bit further though. They're actually giving the models inside rules, and they're making them a fully fledged kill team. That means that if you want to buy this kill team, you can buy a bunch of booster boxes and hope that you get the correct models inside. However, if Games Workshop do stick to the business model that they used before, you will be able to buy a retailer set, which includes 8 boxes of the Space Marine Heroes, and you're guaranteed to get all 7 of the different variations inside. For those of us who don't like to play war games that go beyond a D6, 8 is bigger than 7. That means you're going to be buying a redundant model that you don't want. It's just going to be a duplicate of an existing one. The reason for this is because they want to encourage gambling. Let me be really clear here. I come from a community that has been pretty devastated by gambling. I don't like to see its introduction into the war game space. I think that gambling has absolutely no place at all in miniature wargaming, and I don't care how cheap a fun little veneer has been shown over it by Games Workshop in this instance. I think the fact that it is targeting kids is even more insidious and even more sinister. I really oppose these. I really detest them. I hate gambling elements being put into this hobby, and yeah, I feel really strongly about this. This isn't fun. Having gambling booster packs is not fun. It's not cute. There is literally no reason for this outside of the fact that Games Workshop simply want to exploit a compulsion that many people find themselves with. This is totally unacceptable in my opinion. If you really want to have this kill team, in theory, you could just find some proxies amongst the Space Marines, but I think that the introduction of miniatures into this space being sold via gambling boxes and also then having rules for kill team is an absolutely egregious development, something that I completely oppose on this channel, and it's something that I find completely immoral and unethical and totally deplorable. And it's such a disappointment because we came right off the high of what looks to be an incredible product for Kill Team, possibly the best thing ever made for this rendition of Kill Team, into potentially the worst thing ever made for this rendition of Kill Team. Yeah, it's not fun. You know, it's not fun. We also had another Warhammer 40k Q&A session on the Monday as well, which I did attend. This time, unfortunately, Mike from the rules team wasn't there, but we did get to ask whether or not Games Workshop ever considered moving to an alternating activation system for Warhammer 40k, considering that the I Go You Go system that Warhammer 40k currently uses is a little bit antiquated. The answer, no, but you can play the game however you want in your house, so that's good, I guess. So in theory, this was Games Workshop endorsing one-page rules. Unfortunately, that was all the Q&A sessions. I only got to ask 2 questions. Honestly, before I went, I was anticipating that there would actually be panels where I could have a conversation with some of the rules team, some of the designers, some of the people from marketing, some of the business people, that I could actually ask them questions about, you know, why are you the way that you are? I was really hoping to get more of an in-depth discussion about the games and the future of the games and why the business model looks the way it is. Unfortunately, I just didn't get to ask those types of questions. There wasn't anybody. I did get to ask some questions at the 40k demo game. I got to learn a little bit about the combat patrol system, which is pretty exciting. And I'm going to talk about some of that stuff on a live stream on the channel later this week, so subscribe to the channel if you want to see that. The Golden Demon Awards were awesome. I did get to see a bunch of the entries this year, and boy oh boy are they fantastic. Seriously, the Golden Demons just keeps getting better and better every single year. The standard of painting is absolutely, it's absolutely astronomical. The Golden Demon Awards are so inspiring. I was particularly in awe at the Young Bloods category, which is 15 or younger. The models there were absolutely fantastic. Just really great job. Now, I don't want anybody to think that I've come away from Warhammer Fest, you know, downhearted or annoyed. There were elements that I really liked. I managed to achieve a 20-year-old dream of mine this weekend by picking up the Death Corps of Krieg Command Squad for the first time ever. These are Forge World models, and they're something that I coveted ever since I first started playing Warhammer, but they were just something I could never afford. So being able to save up and pick them up this weekend was positively magical. So I want to thank you all for watching the channel and for supporting me on this journey. It really means a lot. And in fact, I gotta say, that was genuinely the best pit of Warhammer Fest. It was getting to meet you guys. There were so many awesome people I got to meet at the event. I did not have acid thrown on me. I just got to meet lots of really cool people. From Owen to Hugo to Neil, Nigel, Kevin, Hannah, Tuppy, and everybody else that I saw. Thank you so much for saying hello. Thanks for stopping by. I'm incredibly humbled that anybody watches this channel and enjoys it, and being able to actually meet people in real life was really magical. It was really cool. This could be a bit of a lonely job sometimes because I'm literally trapped inside a small room and I'm let out of my cage in order to make videos every so often. So being able to get outside felt really great, and actually being able to meet people was just unbelievable. Really was. It was absolutely humbling, absolutely fantastic. Thank you guys so much. I wish I could have reported better news from Warhammer Fest. I wish I could have just been glowing about it because I really wanted it to be. I really wanted it to be fantastic. And like I said, there were elements that were absolutely fantastic, but they were all community driven. I think there's a lot of lessons the Games Workshop need to learn from this. I think they need to bring back the panels. I think they need to refocus the experience on the employees. This year was the first year where they had a policy on employees not being highlighted. Again, this is the complete wrong direction for their company. They should not be going this way. They have tons of talent. They have tons of passion. They have tons of enthusiasm from their employees. They really need to highlight that and emphasize it and, you know, pay their employees. And, you know, have more than 5 demo tables of your biggest draw to that event. And the fact that this stuff wasn't done really speaks to a lack of perhaps focus or just organizational structure from Games Workshop. It just doesn't seem like this convention was organized very well, and as a result, everyone I spoke to had pretty negative opinions of the event. Those who had been to previous Warhammer Fests, which I have not been, all said that this year's was the worst one ever. So I really hope the Games Workshop learn a bunch of these lessons, and next year, it's a lot better. And if you're interested, by the way, for my concerns about 10th edition Warhammer, check out this video here. And as always, a huge thanks to my patrons, especially Sonic Bread, CryptoKev, and Novini. Thank you so much, guys. And I'll catch y'all next time, perhaps in person next year. Bye-bye.